of Petey's awesome guest panel. My guest today is not only a wrestling legend, but I grew up watching him in his WCW days in the late 2000s when he was in WWE, and he's personally one of my favorite wrestlers. And my guest at this time is the man, Big Vito Lograsso. Did I say that correctly, sir?
Big Vito Lograsso, how are you doing, my man? I hope everything is good. Thank you for having me on your great podcast show. I greatly appreciate it. To all the fans out there, we got an action-packed show. My man here is going to take us to the promised land. Peter, go ahead and give me your first question, man.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, my first question is going to be a typical cliche question because I'm very curious to know. Like, I don't know much about it, but I want to know how you got your start in pro wrestling.
Okay, my start in pro wrestling was was a big-time basketball player. I thought I was going to go pro, and I played in Madison Square Garden, and I wound up. I didn't have that good a grade, so I couldn't take any Division I scholarship offers. So I wound up going to community college. Kind of got tired of it, and I wound up trying out for the Olympic baseball team. From there, I said I was going to go home, and then I was going to play semi-pro football. So then wrestling came on, and watching it one day, I said I could do better than these guys. And, I went to a school called Johnny Rod's Unpredictable World of Wrestling in Brooklyn, New York, at Gleason's Gym, where all the great boxers like Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, Holyfield, you name it, they've been there. And, I just took off from there. And, I had some good training, probably more intense than people think because Johnny was still training guys. And, when you get that one-on-one training, it makes you a better pro.
Cool, man. Very cool. And my next question is going to segue into WCW because I remember as a kid, it was you and Johnny the Bull Stamboni, like you guys were the Mama Lukes and you had Disco Inferno as your manager. Take me through WCW 2000, because I'm very curious to know what your tenure was like back then.
Well, what guys don't remember is I started out in my first year in 1990. By 91, I was in the WWF doing enhancement talent stuff. And then from there, in 1992, I went to Japan. I went to Puerto Rico. 93, I was still doing enhancement stuff for the WWF. 94, I was in San Domingo for Jack Veneno. 95, I was in Memphis, Tennessee for Jerry Lawler. And then I took off back to Puerto Rico for Carlos Colon. I did 3 years there, and then I went to All Japan Pro Wrestling. And from All Japan, I went to ECW, where I had a good run as a singles, and we created the faction of the Baldies. And then I got the call from Vince Russo to make it to WCW to create the Mamalukes.
Sweet. And what was your thoughts of having Disco Inferno as your manager?
Well, Glenn added a different kind of spice to it, you know what I mean? So we made him all flunky, but the vignettes and everything we did was always good, always funny, and it was a really good time. I can't complain about it at all.
And I remember, because you were in the ring this day, though. It was April 10th, 2000, when the Monday Nitro was being rebooted by Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff. I just wanted to get your opinion on that night.
It was kind of hectic in the dressing room because they were revamping again, and there was a lot of revamping or a lot of retooling, a lot of things going on behind the scenes. So, I mean, it was kind of chaotic, but in the end, if they would have just left Vince Russo in charge, they wouldn't have bothered him. We probably still have WCW up and running today.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a good
and did
question.
you have?
Good answer.
Thank you. And I remember because you had a feud with. I mean, back then they were going as Patrick and Gerald, but then they changed it to the Harris brothers. I was just curious, what were your thoughts on the feud when you and Johnny had a feud with the Harris brothers?
It was a good feud. I mean, there were two big guys, and they were part of the Jeff Jarrett crew. But everybody we worked with in WCW was good to us, and we worked well with everybody. So there really was no animosity towards anything. You know what I mean? Everybody was trying to get their goal. Everybody was trying to be tag team champion. So it was always a good push for us, no matter who we work with.
Okay. And with the final Nitro, were you in the building that day when they were in Panama Beach City?
No, I was not in the building on the final Nitro. I should have been, but there was a lot of chaos that night and a lot of bad things going on. And it's just one of those things if you didn't have to be there, you probably didn't want to be there. and it's probably one of the saddest nights in world wrestling history that WCW did close, and it shouldn't have closed.
I understand that. And for like when you now you went during the invasion angle, right? Were you part of the WWE at the WWF at the time during
No,
invasion?
my contract didn't get picked up. It was Johnny had gotten picked up, and everybody in wrestling was like, "Well, what happened to Vito? Why didn't Vito get picked up?" And it's just a lot of backstage politics and nonsense. So, I mean, it is what it is, you know. So, I mean, it's good. But I mean, there was life after WCW. I mean, I was the opening match at XWF for Hulk Hogan. You know, I did go back to Germany. I went back to Japan. I did a run in TNA. And then I made my way over to the WWE.
Oh, I remember because this was when you started teaming with Nunzio, right?
Yes. Yes, it was. On the first night, we won the Cruiserweight title with me being Nunzio's backup. It was a great night for Nunzio. Finally gave him a title in the WWE. And off we went, you know, to a successful run as Cruiserweight champion.
Very cool. And I do gotta ask you this though, because it's ironic because both you and Johnny Stamboli actually were in the company, but at different times though. Like, cause like I believe Johnny was with Nunzio and Chuck Palumbo in 2003, and then you wind up being with Nunzio in 2005, right?
Yeah, everybody always questions, you know, the FBI really wasn't the FBI unless Big Vito was there. So there was a lot of stuff that went on. Like I said, it was a lot of backstage politics and stuff. But you know, in the end, I finally got there. I got to be with Nunzio, and Nunzio and me and Johnny were, you know, really tight. And I knew Chuck Palumbo. We were all working together, so it was cool. No animosity towards nobody. Everything was great.
You mentioned Nunzio because I actually saw not like officially met Nunzio, but I actually saw Nunzio at a Brooklyn event the 3 years ago. Very cool guy. Like he was teaming up with another wrestler. Like I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember who it was, but it was like another Indies wrestler. I saw him like it was a show in Brooklyn, so it was cool. I'm just upset the fact that we had both Big Vito and Johnny the Bull in WWE at two different times. It sucks that we didn't get to see the Mama Luke's reunion.
I think if the Mamalukes would have got a chance in WWE, we would have had several tag team championships
Yeah,
under our belts.
I agree because you guys were so over in WCW that I really think that and it sucks. Again, it sucks that it was two different time periods because I think the Mama Luke's with Nunzio as the manager, and like it would have been cool. Like Vito, how cool would it have been like had it been you and Johnny as tag team champions, and your manager Nunzio was the cruiserweight champion.
No, it would have been pretty awesome, you know. But everybody who thinks that things will work out and do things, then you have the X Factor and Vince McMahon, so it never comes to fruition. But that's just the way the wrestling business is. You know what I mean?
And I saw like your post earlier, and I couldn't agree more like about like the WWE because I totally relate to you. Like I agree with you because it's like it seems to me like WWE, this is just my opinion, that they would do anything, and they're so desperate that they would do anything to keep themselves open.
I think that's true in a lot of ways, and they're not very caring on the product. They're not very caring on the personnel. They put a lot of people in jeopardy, especially with COVID-19 going on. But guys, as a wrestling fan and now a journalist and podcaster, you could see what goes on, and I think you're a pretty smart guy to figure out, who cares, who doesn't care, what the business is like, and it's not a very nice business right now, and it could be very, very hurtful to the people who are in it. So that's why I make my posts and I speak the truth, and I'm one of those guys who's really upfront. I don't sugarcoat anything. I'm straightforward, to the point, and I always make a point.
And that's what I totally like. I totally appreciate somebody that can speak their mind and speak the truth. That's, and I'll be honest with you, I was actually very nervous to actually contact you. Maybe because I'm a shy guy, I don't know, but I was just so nervous to contact you because I wanted to tell you how I agree so much with what you're saying as far as the wrestling business go. Because it seems like you said, like WWE does not care. Like it's like they don't care if their wrestlers get affected by this COVID.
No, they don't, and it shows. I mean, if you could have Nia Jack TikToking on from the Performance Center and posting it on our personal, Twitter account, and posting on Instagram and being on TikTok, and she doesn't have a mask on. She's got other wrestlers there TikToking with her. what kind of protocol are you following? What rules are being followed? How do you fight that? I mean, it's terrible to think, and some people just don't give a shit, and that's the truth.
Terrible. And do you think that, in your honest opinion, do you think that because of Trump, like how Trump and Vince are friends? Like, I mean, we all know that it's a well-known fact that Trump and Vince are very close. Do you think that that because Trump is president, that he gave Vince some passes, like to have recordings?
Um, I don't know. I can't answer that question because I'm not in their friendship. But like I said, you read between the lines what you see, and what you see is pretty much what your gut feeling's telling you. So, I mean, I don't want to make an assumption or a prediction or may have any say on that. But the people who observe this, use your gut instinct on a lot of things, and you will be correct.
Fair enough. And like I do want to ask you about your WWE run though, because and I'm not even talking about like what they did to you, which was ridiculous though with the whole dress thing. I find that very ridiculous. Like
Yes.
because I was thinking to myself, come on, this Big Vito deserved better than this. Well, why are they doing this to him?
A lot of people thought the same thing. They just had an idea. They wanted to run with it. I said yes. And it was a successful gimmick. I got over with the crowd. I think I got over more than what they anticipated. And it was a good time. I can't say it was a bad time. And I embraced it. I did the whole thing the whole way through like a real pro. I kayfabed. I lived the gimmick. I did everything I needed to do. So, I mean, in other words, the fans got to enjoy Big Vito on a different side, like seeing him with his real personality. So smiling, happy, doing his thing. So it was all good.
That's cool. As long as you were able to enjoy it though, like what's the point of staying with a company if you're not enjoying the angle you're doing, right?
Exactly. You got that on the point.
I understand. And when you were there, because you were there like in WCW, I was just a 10-year-old kid when I was watching WCW in 2000. Like, do you think that like, because I always thought that like Vince Russo is like kind of like like misinterpreted. Like he means well, but it's not executed well. Like it's good on paper, but then it's not. Like for instance, like he was trying to put like guys like you, Kidman, younger guys like over as opposed to the people that are already established like his like I'm trying to understand like if his vision was more like trying to get younger guys over and just having the people that are already past the prime.
I got the perfect answer for that. When you got people who have been set in their ways, people don't like change. And when people see change coming, they buck the system. A lot of guys didn't like change, and a lot of guys didn't want to move out of the way. But Vince tried to make new stars, and that's the name of the game. As you could see today with the WWE, we don't have those major mega stars. We are lacking stars, and it shows in the way their presentation is, the way the program is on both Raw and SmackDown. We, I mean, Brock Lesnar, hands down, is the mega star. Randy Orton, Edge. Who else is there? Really isn't anybody else. I mean, AJ Styles, I wouldn't put as a megastar. Daniel Bryan's star has fallen. Roman Reigns doesn't even come on TV anymore. My take on it is he got released because he didn't want to wrestle at WrestleMania, and he's on the QT. But other than that, I mean, hey, it is what it is today in the wrestling business, and it's changed from 20 and 30 and 40 years ago. So everybody's got to take it the way it comes.
What do you think about like what they're doing right now with Bray Wyatt? And I asked this because it's amazing how like he was able to kick out of Seth Rollins 3 stomps and having a bunch of tools poured onto him, but then he was not able to kick out of a Goldberg botched jackhammer. I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
WWE doesn't know how to book Bray Wyatt, and they're wasting his talent. The best thing that could happen to him is if he got released, go over to another promotion and skyrocket and do everything that you want to do, because that guy should have been the next Undertaker. They should never have gotten away from the Bray Wyatt character. They should never have broken away from, the awesome group they had. And those guys should still be running together. I think they're better than New Day, if you ask me.
Can I share something interesting about New Day though? Like they're actually for some, I found this out. They're actually the longest stable tenure in WWE. Like most stables like break up within like 2 or 3 years. Like they've been together for 6.
Yeah, listen, I mean, sometimes you know, if it sticks, it sticks. It doesn't, it doesn't. But you know, I just think that Bray Wyatt and you know, his guys, I like the Shield. The Shield should have never broken up. Bray Wyatt and his boys should have never broken up. You have to keep the stable of the New Day, so that gives you another stable. There's another thing where they could have made a 6-man tag team championship. You know, and that hasn't been done before in wrestling history. So I mean, there's a lot of different intangibles about it, but you know, at the end of the day, Vince McMahon has a say on what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do, and nobody could change his mind. He's the man. He's the one, the guy who makes all the what do you call all the decisions there.
And I'll be honest with you, Vito. Like when you were in WWE, when you broke away from Nunzio and you turned face, I thought to myself, this would be a perfect time to, put, the United States Championship on Vito. He's over with the crowd. He has a gimmick that's working right now, and I really think that you should have gotten a run with the U.S. title.
You and everybody else tells me the same thing, that I should have been champion in the WWE, but like I said, it's a lot of politics and go on there. You know, when they give you something and it's just like Dusty Rhodes being the common man, the plumber. They didn't think he'd get it over, but he got it over. Well, they gave me a dress. They didn't think I was going to get it over, but I got it over.
Do you think that, like, if you debuted in 2002, like, we already talked about, like, how definitely, like, if you and Johnny Stamboli were together, like, in the company at the same time, you guys would have had numerous tag team runs, as opposed to La Resistance or World's Greatest Tag Team or all those teams. But do you think that if you debuted in 2002, like, in WWE, they would have put you in the hardcore division?
They might have, because I had a hardcore background from ECW, and then I was in Puerto Rico, so they might have. But I did go to Vince McMahon when things like were a little slow for me, and I said, Vince, if you'd like to put me in the hardcore division, he said, Vito, he says, you don't need to go in the hardcore division. You can wrestle. Guys, you can't wrestle, go in the hardcore division. So that came from the man himself. So that's a big compliment. So like I said, like, things that are obvious don't really happen. Things are like that look ridiculous usually happen. So I mean, that's the wrestling business. It's very unpredictable.
I see. And like, and here's what I definitely want to ask you though, like in WCW though, like, would you say that because you were, if I'm not mistaken here, but you were also part of the hardcore division in WCW, right?
Yes, I was hardcore champion. I beat Terry Funk for the title on Monday Night Nitro. I had a very successful hardcore run. A lot of people liked me as hardcore champion. They don't think the title, again, politics. You know, when they gave Lance Storm the title, he couldn't really say nothing, but it happened. But you take the good with the bad. I had a good time. I enjoyed my run. I enjoy my career very much. And it's people like you who make it even more special for me, because you guys are the fans and you guys make it happy for me that I got to entertain you and you still remember the good wrestling.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna say something else that I remember watching like one time a specific segment or match, and I was thinking about it, and I was just cheering like a motherfucker for you. Like, and it was when you remember when Mean Gene and Mark Madden had that match, and you
Yeah,
came out and you helped Gene Okerlund. I was like on my feet when you did that because I didn't want Mark Madden to win.
me neither. Nobody did. No,
That's
but thank you very much for that. I mean, like I said, I had a lot of great times in WCW, a lot of good memories, and like, you know, if it's a tweak of the booking committee, either way, I maybe I could have been world champion. I definitely could have been a different kind of champion. But I mean, being tag team champion, being hardcore champion, there was definitely another championship for me to be had in WCW. So I mean, but I got no complaints. I got no complaints.
do you think that the FBI could have worked in some aspects where if it was like you, Nunzio, Johnny the Bull Stamboni, and Tony Mamaluke? Do you think it
No.
would have worked?
No, it had to be Chuck Palumbo. Tony Mamaluke, so you can't have a small guy in there. And when Tony Mamaluke was in WCW, it didn't work too good. You know, when he got hurt and then was out and they put Disco in, you know, you can't really have too many small guys on one team. You know, Chuck Palumbo would have been the heavyweight. Me and Johnny would have been the tag team. And Nunzio would have been the cruiserweight.
Makes sense. And because like in ECW, wasn't there like a Big Sal and like Big Sally Grazio or no?
Big Sal Graziano and Nunzio with Tracy Smothers and Tommy Rich, and that was a good foursome, for what it was. But only Nunzio made it through the ranks to get to uh, bring the FBI to the WWE. So, and he never made it to WCW. So, like I said, the wrestling business is very funny and where you think you're going to wind up and where you're going to go. So, I mean, like you said, you just take the good with the bad and you just roll with it.
No, but wasn't thank you, sir. No, but wasn't like his original name Nunzio, wasn't it Little Guido?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. Little Guido, Nunzio, same stuff, same thing.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I say, like, I really think that, WWE really dropped the ball with, like, you and Johnny Stamboli, because you guys, like, if they brought you in around the same time Johnny came in, which I think was 2002, because I remember seeing him on
Right.
Monday Night Raw. Like, I really think that we could have had a Mama Luke's, reunion and having them dominate the SmackDown Tag Team division.
I think that could have been possible. A lot of people thought the same thing. And, it would have been a good run. I think we would have did a lot of great things. Would have been a lot of great matches. Would have a lot of great tag teams. So, I mean, the world of wrestling could have changed if the Mamalukes were in the WWE. So, you
I
just,
was
just take it as it comes.
And I was waiting for that day. Like, even like when you showed up in the WWE, I was like thinking to myself, they hired Johnny Stamboli, they hired Nunzio. When is Big Vito going to debut with the WWE? And then I got my answer in 2005.
That's it. So everybody's dreams do come true. So that's good.
Yeah, like I said, I grew up watching you when I was a kid. Like, I remember it was the Mamalukes versus so many teams in WCW. It was Mamalukes versus the Harris Brothers. It was Mamalukes versus Harlem Heat 2000. Mamalukes versus Chronic.
Yeah, and now they have on YouTube. They definitely have some more Mamaluke matches. If you look up Big Vito, I think they have a few more matches. So if guys want to go check out the YouTube and look up Big Vito, you can definitely see some tag team action with me and Johnny the Bull.
I'm definitely gonna check those out. Like, and because like it just takes me back to like when I want to watch old WCW Nitro things. Like, mainly because I started watching wrestling in 1999.
Right.
Um, and Nitro 2000. People may say what they want about it, but as a kid growing up in Brooklyn, and you could appreciate this too because you grew up in Brooklyn, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, definitely. You're saying the same thing like a lot of guys from Brooklyn and Staten Island used to say. We have somebody's repping us. So I mean, and that's just the way it was. Honestly, truly, it was somebody repping the neighborhood, and they all believed, and there was nothing fake about it. Every time I hit somebody, I made it stick. There was no phony baloney stuff. What you saw, what you got was a New York tough guy being himself, on national TV. So I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that.
If I may ask, Vito, like what part of Brooklyn are you from? Because I'm in the near Sheepshead Bay area where I'm like 20
Bensonhurst.
minutes from Benson. Oh, I
Benson.
love them. You ever go to John's Deli there?
Yeah. I mean, when it was Italian, I mean, now it's a smorgasbord over there right now. So
I definitely can relate to that because, as a Brooklyn boy myself, like I grew up 20 minutes away from Coney Island, so I could definitely totally relate on that aspect.
no, I hear you,
Um,
man. It's definitely a different time and a different place.
I agree. And like when you went like how did that happen with the like when you got released in WWE in 2006 or 7?
7.
What happened?
I got a phone call and they said they had nothing for me, and I had been working as a Deep South heavyweight champion, in their developmental, and I had a new gimmick. I was ready to debut the next week. John Laurinaitis called me up and said, "We have nothing for you." That's after Mike Bucci and Steve Kern told me I was going up to TV, and they released me. And that was it.
It sucks because where were you supposed to debut? SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Okay, because you were very big on SmackDown in 2005, 2006.
Yes, yes. But like I said, you just take the good with the bad, and I can't say anything bad. All I could tell you is I enjoyed my time and the opportunity, and whatever else happened after that, is all, personal stuff. But you know what, guys, when you get to have a career like mine and you get to do the things I've done, you're grateful for what you did, and you're thankful for the places you've been, and some of the great people I've got to meet and still be friends with today is all awesome.
That's very cool, man. And like I do want to ask you, what was your TNA run like?
It was short. It was okay. It was. I came in with a bang, and then again they switched booking and they had a WCW moment, and I really didn't want to be part of it, so I bowed out.
You ever see yourself going to AEW or no?
AEW right now, according to what the dirt sheets are saying, they're a couple of TV shows away from being canceled. So I think we got to watch their content and see where they're going, because I don't think anybody's going to be going there soon.
I hope they, like what I was thinking is like I was hoping that this would be like a recreation of Monday Nitro, 1996, 1999.
I just think that they have a lot of guys who have not been on TV and some guys who've been working overseas that just don't mix in American style or, here on the superstation, especially trying to compete with the WWE. I mean, when you look at the big stars they got Moxley, they have Jericho, they got Swagger, as big stars. Cody Rhodes wasn't a big star in the WWE. Goes by the name of Rhodes, that's his father's name. But Cody definitely didn't make it in the WWE, so he doesn't register as a mega star coming over. So, I mean, when you talk about the mega stars they have, Jack Swagger is a former world champion. Jericho's a former world champion. Moxley's a former world champion. So, I mean, and that's their credibility right there. Not taken away from any of the guys there, but a lot of the guys don't have the TV time to get over.
I understand, and I do want to ask you this though. Like you mentioned, like Cody, he has the Rhodes last name. Do you think that for second generation or third generation superstar, do you think that having that kind of like last name, if you're part of a wrestling family, is like somewhat? I'm not saying a curse, but it would be somewhat of a difficult obstacle because
You
you have to make
cannot live up to your father's reputation and what your father did. It's the worst thing to do is when you come up. It's like Bruno Sammartino's son David could never live up to it, right? David Flair could never live up to his father. Um, there are a bunch of other wrestlers whose son. Look at Davey Boy Smith, Harry Smith, did not live up to his father's expectation.
it.
And you know what? And guys, when you have to live up to come under the pressure, look at Mr. Perfect's son. Mr. Perfect, probably one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And his son did not measure up to be Mr. Perfect. It's difficult. Best thing to do is be not related to anybody and make your way.
I agree. And like you said, very rarely does that happen. Like look at Randy Orton. The man is a third generation superstar and he out shined his father's population and his
Right.
grandfather's population. Even his uncle, Barry O.
Listen, some guys have a gift. Some guys make it. So you're talking one out of every five or one out of every 10 who make it. But I mean, it's very hard to make it in the wrestling business coming in under your father's name. That's for damn sure.
Do you think that Bray Wyatt had, surpassed his father IRS?
Uh, Not longevity wise. Gimmick wise, yes. Longevity wise, no. But I mean, he's still an open book, so we can't judge until his career goes another 3, 4, 5 years to see where that's at.
Fair enough. Like, because like there's some names, like even Charlotte Flair, like she's out, she's almost as, popular or as decorated as her father.
She's getting there. She's getting there.
Do you think that, and because you know more about this than me, but do you think that sometimes people like, brand her like as the new Roman Reigns, like they're just pushing her, like
No,
pushing
no.
on
I
us?
mean, she's got legit wrestling talent. She's good. You know what I mean? Having her, you know what? You can get a job at the WWE, and somebody can give you a job, but unless you have the talent to do the job, it doesn't matter. She was given a job. She has the talent to do the job, so she's successful.
Fair enough. And but what about like when you have Barry Windham and Kendall Windham?
I mean, those guys just didn't make it. They didn't cut. I mean, Blackjack Mulligan was Blackjack Mulligan. And you look at him, and yeah, he was awesome. And Barry Windham was no slouch. Kendall Windham was third on the list, but they never measured up to Blackjack Mulligan.
I agree. And did you know this? I had no idea until like later on, and like 4 years I didn't know this. But did you know that Blackjack Lanza is actually the uncle of John Bradshaw Layfield?
Yes, I do know that. I
And see,
do
I
know.
didn't know.
You got to get up on your history, man.
I know. I gotta brush up. Like, I didn't know that. Like, like there's so much history that I just wasn't sure. But I'm actually doing research now because I've been, studying wrestling like, well, dirt sheet wise since 2004, which was like, back when 24 wrestling was a
Right.
thing, or the Pain was a big, and also WrestleZone.
No, I get you. You know, to get your stuff, the best place to get it as a journalist, and if you're going to be a podcaster, go to the horse's mouth and get it from them. But the dirt sheets are kind of bullshitty, and you can't go on third and fourth, versions of what happened. But if you go to the source and interview the source, you're always going to get the truth and where it is. But nobody can say he's lying because he's answering your question, you know. And if you do go to the source, have a bunch of questions ready, get your stuff down that you want to ask, what point you want to make, and then they'll be more apt to tell you certain things, unless instead of they say, well, how about this and how about that. But if you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I think you'll get a lot more bang for your buck like that.
Makes sense to me. And I do want to ask you because you were there in 2005 with on the SmackDown roster. Like this is something me and my father would talk about because me and my dad and my grandfather love wrestling. And we watch it all the time. But because we talked about my father and I would talk about how like SmackDown was more like of the veteran show. Like you had Bob Holly, you had Bradshaw, you had
Right.
Chris Benoit. Like, did you ever sense that like SmackDown was more like of the veterans home, and then Raw was like the home for like newcomers?
No, not at all. Yeah. It's where they put you, and everybody's a pro, and you had to work with everybody, so it really didn't make a difference where you were. As long as you had a job, you were making money, and everything was good.
Yeah, and 2005 was one of my favorite years for wrestling, though. And that was the year because you started like in what month of was it? Was it September?
August, August.
August. I remember because you came out like you were part of that Survivor Series, like when Team SmackDown won, and you were part of that team celebrating with Randy Orton at the end of the pay-per-view.
Yes, definitely for sure. So I mean, like I said, there's a lot of great things in wrestling that happen. There's a lot of crappy things that happen, but when you look at things, try not to go from what the hearsay is or what the dirt sheets say. Go to the source and get your answer. You'll be more than happy.
I agree because just like like if I have any questions about WCW or like the 2005 WWE, I would ask you because you were there.
Right. Exactly.
And I definitely and I'm a big fan, Vito. Like I've been a fan since 2000 February 2000, like when you were having that feud with the Harris brothers.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it, man. And it's fans like you that make it worthwhile because like you really cherish those moments and you cheered, and you probably were upset when you lose the title or stuff like that. But you do it for the fans, you entertain the fans, and if you're really serious about your craft, it means something to the people who are like yourself, and it means something to me because if I sucked, we wouldn't be having this interview. So and you tracked me down, you found me, and we're interviewing, and you're having the interview of your life, and you get to interview one of your idols, and everything is real cool. And thank you for that. I appreciate it very much.
No problem. Like especially like that you were actually part of like like a chapter like in my wrestling life because you were part of both WCW and WWE. You were around for many important times in like both companies. Like for WCW, it was the reboot when Vince Russo came in and
Right.
Bischoff did that thing. Then when you came in 2005, you were not only part of like the FBI with Nunzio, but you were around the time too, which in my opinion was one of the saddest days next to Owen Hart of wrestling, which was when Eddie Guerrero passed away.
I was there that day. It was a very sad day. It was a very horrible day. And what a lot of people don't realize, we had to go overseas that night. There was no going home. You had to sit with that on a plane and you were off. So it was a tough, tough day, you know?
It sucks because I woke up like, I mean, this is when I first started high school too in 2005. Like, I wake up and I go on the page and I see, Eddie Guerrero, 1967 to 2005. I thought at first they were doing a joke because they've done this stuff before with Al Wilson, with Tori Wilson's father.
Right. And I thought that kind of was horrible angle, but you know, hey.
Yeah, I thought
But
it was. No,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. What? Oh well, no, I was just saying, like, like you were definitely a part of, like, in my opinion, WWE, like 2005 was my opinion, the last time WWE was actually worth watching, with the exception of CM Punk's, the summer of CM Punk,
Right. You got it.
because that was really good. And I guarantee you, Vito, that if like if you were released at that time, Punk would have definitely referenced you. He says, he would, like, because that was when he was feuding with John Laurinaitis.
Exactly.
And
All right, my man. I have another podcast to do,
um,
and I got to get going.
no problem.
Anything else you want? Anything you got for the fans? Anything else you need?
Two things, Mr. Vito. One is, like, would you be able, because for my frame grab, my thumbnail, I want to do like a 3 to 5 second pose, like, like smiling, so that
Okay.
way I can use that as my frame grab thumbnail, and then afterwards you can plug anything you want.
Okay. Ready?
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, and now if you want to plug anything, now is the time, my man.
All right, guys. Hey, listen, everybody, go to the Big Vito brand and subscribe to our Twitch channel. Go to Big Vito brand on Twitter, Facebook. Catch the Big Vito brand everywhere. All you got to do is look it up, get the affiliates, hit the digits, subscribe. And believe me, I appreciate all you guys out there. I appreciate Peter for taking the time to interview me. It was a great interview. You did a good job, Peter. Thank you very much. And catch Peter's podcast. It's really good. Give him a chance to all the wrestlers out there, and just make it happen, my man.
Thank you. And one last thing before you go, I just want to say thank you so much for this interview. You made my day, and God bless you, sir.
Hey, you're all good, man. All right, guys, you take it out. The BIGV from the LOG signing off. Peace.
Take care, my man.